Thank you for letting me speak to you today about an organization and a community that's near and dear to my heart, the American Printing History Association. My name is Haven Hawley, and I have the privilege and honor of being president of the association. The American Printing History Association encourages the study of the history of printing and related arts and crafts. Our goal is to learn about what printing means and has meant, technically, socially, and culturally, and to make it possible for others, now and in the future, to find out what's relevant to their own lives about that past. Our mission is to encourage the study of printing history, and especially American printing history, in all its facets, from a world context to local interest. This includes all the arts and technologies relevant to printing, book arts, and letter forms. We do this by producing and promoting publications, exhibitions, conferences, lectures, and other programs at national and local levels. Our activities encourage the exchange of information and ideas relating to printing history. We foster the development and maintenance of libraries and museums for the preservation of materials that bear on that topic, including specimens of printing, equipment, and also materials. And we cooperate with other organizations, with the institutions and the individuals who are part of the printing enterprise, to recognize the central importance of printing to humanity. With that background, I'd like to show you how we undertake our work and what that means to our communities. Our mission inspires us to be part of, to create, and to connect communities at the national and regional levels through our many programs and services. Each fall, we hold a national conference with papers and workshops, tours, and more. Starting from a Columbia University home in the 1970s and early 80s, we've expanded our fall meeting locations to across the United States. Our conferences highlight local book art centers, museums, and historic districts. Each of these are avenues for learning about and recovering the past. Our regional chapters are building blocks of our national community. Local printing workshops, historical talks, and social meetings foster the exchange of knowledge about printing and its history throughout the year. Our chapters are New England, Chesapeake, New York State, Ohio River Valley, Northern California, and Southern California. We also plan to reorganize the Inland chapter in 2021. And our membership and their interests extend to many parts of the world, most strongly in the United States, where chapters have been established, but also internationally. We welcome members wherever they're located, and we value their ability to broaden our understanding of printing history over time and across cultures and around the world. APHA seeks to make it possible to ask better questions about what we don't know, but need to know about the history of printing. We occasionally have joint conferences with like-minded organizations, such as Friends of Dart Hunter, now the North American Hand Papermakers, and the Center for Historic American Visual Culture, or SHAVIC. We're excited to build another bridge with this year's Waysgoose 2020 to Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum. Our conferences bring people together to create community. At the University of Maryland last year, we emphasized diversity in the history of American printing, with presentations allowing us to support and grow with a network of historians, bibliographers, and printers whose work brings attention to Black printers and bibliography. We visited Pyramid Atlantic and printed conference poster keepsakes. With Friends of Dart Hunter in Iowa City, we made papermaking a key component. Tim Barrett and his colleagues led us in making the largest sheet of handmade paper in the world, 135 square feet. And we've traveled coast to coast. In San Marino at the Huntington Library, we explored ancient mysteries, black letter, and printer's devils, with visits to the Archetype Press, Getty Center, and the International Printing Museum. With SHAVIC in Worcester at the American Antiquarian Society, we also had a trip to the Printing History Museum in Averill, Massachusetts. At these locations, we talked about the power of printed images. We said our names in monotype, and we enjoyed a magnificent museum feast. We studied hand-press technology at Rochester in 2015 with a Cary Collection printing workshop and keynote by Alex Christie, author of Gutenberg's Apprentice. And an earlier partnership with Friends of Darthunter at San Francisco and in Oakland led us to a plethora of printing, paper, tours, workshops, all of these at the Center for the Book and Public Library in San Francisco and Mills College in Oakland. We seek out and promote voices, experiences, and perspectives that lead us to a deeper and more meaningful understanding of printing. The J. Ben Lieberman Lecture allows us to tap into the knowledge and expertise of people who offer distinct visions about the possibilities and progress of that history. Named after AFA's founder, the Lieberman Lecture is held in the same region as the Fall Conference or as a keynote at the conference. Last month, Jennifer Farrell talked about how her work at the Star-Shaped Press has intersected for more than 2 decades with the history of Chicago and its urban environment, and Ben Blount led a Q&A after her Zoom talk. At the One Press Many Hands Conference, Colette Gator offered a keynote address. She spoke on printing as assimilation and resistance, representing the voice of diverse communities. Sarah Werner premiered at the Library of Congress a Lieberman lecture that is now touring as a talk on feminist printing and bibliography. Herbert H. Johnson, a founding member of AFA, spoke on Bruce Rogers and type design at the Rochester Hand Press Conference. We're also proud to support emerging scholars with the Mark Samuels Lasner Fellowship in Printing History. Each year, we solicit applications from early career researchers or practitioners, and it's so hard to choose just one. We recently funded research by Nadira Mansour on Egypt's first Arabic newspapers, and Wei Jin Darrell Lim on Muslim Malay lithography. With the fellowship, Jordan Wingate completed his dissertation on Black printers in Philadelphia, and Amanda Stuckey focused on printing for the blind for her research on disability and the book in American culture. AFA publishes Printing History, a biannual journal of peer-reviewed scholarship, book reviews, and features like printer interviews. Brooke Palmieri is one of a long line of distinguished editors. Under her guidance, Printing History has embraced an even wider range of scholarship and integrated outstanding conference papers into itself. Printing History is representative of the best scholarship and the breadth of the field. It's diverse, international, and has a wide technical range. The print journal is free to members, and we're working on a plan to make an electronic version available without institutional subscription. Numbers 28 will soon be offered as a double issue, and we welcome submissions for future copies. AFA's reach is more than printing history, because we also promote our members and what they publish. You've likely read works by our members published through scholarly presses or printed at their own shops. Many have become lasting contributions to printing history with a lowercase ph. Member publications range from the history of hand papermaking to contemporary printing with digital type, or histories of American, Polish, or Arab printing. They span early Western color printing and reach to underground duplicators in the 20th century. So crack open a copy of Paul Moxon's guide on the care and feeding of a Vandercook press if you haven't already. We're proud of these works. They're vital to preserving knowledge and ensuring the relevance of printing and its history. The real treasure of the American Printing History Association is its people. We recognize the work of those who open ways for the next generation to learn about printing. The preservation of artifacts, records, and expertise is critical to making this happen, and we honor individuals and institutions who today build foundations for future historical studies. Now, I would like to know in my brain as much as Frank Romano has forgotten from his brain. His scholarship, teaching, and preservation of technologies, from letterpress to digital typesetting at the Printing History Museum, is a prime example of excellence we strive to recognize. Other recent individual laureates include Rich Hopkins, who literally wrote the book on printer's type measurement. Richard Minsky founded the Center for the Book Arts in Manhattan and is a groundbreaking book artist whose work integrates traditional practices with the book as art object. The history of women in printing has been Lisa Baskin's passion, inspiring her to build the most significant American private collection on the topic, a collection now preserved at Duke University. And Cynthia Brokaw's scholarship has made it possible to understand rural publishing in China, as well as regional dynastic relationships, all through printing history. Institutions are also important to the discovery, preservation, and transmission of knowledge. The Bixler Letter Foundry of Michael and Winfred Bixler received last year's institutional award. Their work has been central to teaching and preserving the history of English monotype type and ornaments. Other awards have recognized the Minnesota Center for the Book Arts for reaching across cultural boundaries to develop new audiences while exploring intersections between traditional craft and emerging conceptualizations of the book. The Black Rock Press, founded by Kenneth J. Carpenter and at the University of Nevada, has become a living museum. They teach craft technique on historical presses. And finally, the U.S. Government Printing Office, now the Government Publishing Office, has for more than 150 years reflected the changing technologies, techniques, workforce, and standards of the printing industry. The GPO's history program has documented those shifts, enhancing our understanding of printing over much of this nation's history. Regional chapters are key building blocks of our larger community. Chapters create, sponsor, and promote a host of programs of interest. Many of us find AFA to be among the only organizations where a scholarly talk or a demonstration might include all of these: printing industry personnel, academics and librarians, professional and amateur historians, collectors, booksellers, artists, or the curious. Chapter programs are a stimulating blend of practice, research, lore, and printing magic. Our chapters have many activities. The New England chapter has taken advantage of proximity to the Rhode Island School of Design and Wellesley College for recent programs, such as one in the Wellesley Book Arts Lab. And Alice Beckwith of the chapter has undertaken an oral history project of note. Chesapeake chapter's Zoom get-togethers have helped members continue meeting despite the pandemic. They may be physically distant, but they are decidedly not socially distant. They've combined with Hamilton Woodtype Museum for lead graffiti and recently undertook a June video exhibition of Out of Sorts. Chicago has been home to the Inland chapter, which hosted the AFA Fall Conference in 2012. Columbia College was headquarters for that conference. Also, the Newberry Library offers some of the country's finest collections related to printing. The Ohio River Valley chapter hosts workshops in the Cincinnati metropolitan area at colleges and for local school children. They provide tours and demonstrations to clubs and retirement home residents as part of reaching out to public audiences. And they've recently had field trips to the Cincinnati Type and Print Museum. The New York chapter is centered in New York City, historic headquarters for the American Printing History Association. Members recently visited the Paper Legacy Study Collection at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they regularly attend lectures and exhibitions, easy to do in New York City. The upstate New York chapter's members live from the Hudson Valley to Buffalo. The Cary Collection and the Cary Graphic Design Archives at Rochester Institute of Technology have been host to Hand Press and Beyond, as well as other events where you can use historic presses. NorCal, or the Northern California chapter, hosted a Zoom event this summer with Mary and Willie Ratcliffe, publishers of Bayview, a national Black newspaper. With the Grabern Press, they screened a documentary about Mexican artist Jose Guadalupe Posada. They hosted a letterpress Valentine's workshop at the San Francisco Public Library with the help of Li Zhang, Brian Ferret, and Gretel Lofquist. The chapter also co-hosted with the Book Club of California a program on antique type in the 1860s. And finally, the Southern California chapter extends from San Luis Obispo to San Diego. The chapter has recently partnered with the International Printing Museum in Carson and the UCLA Libraries. SoCal promoted the Feminist Bibliographies video. Before the COVID lockdown, it sponsored a lecture and 2 workshops by Jennifer Farrell. A recent workshop by Tia Blasingame at Scripps College Press in Claremont examined prints, zines, and artist books with a social justice, social practice focus. She taught low relief techniques on an antique printing press. The American Printing History Association is making the leap from physical places to digital spaces. Thanks to Paul Moxon's work transitioning the AFA newsletter into our frequently updated website and social media messaging, we've been working towards this new future for a while. At printinghistory.org, we've created resources to reflect our growth as an organization and to stimulate growth in printing history and its knowledge and practice by individuals. The Printing History Timeline is an authoritative resource for educators and the media. Also on the website, you'll find information about new publications, local printing resources, and member news. Can't make it to the fall conference? You can read panel summaries and conference roundups, and you can see photos from the tours and workshops that we took. We're delighted to promote the Feminist Bibliographies video now available from Tia Blasingame, Kate Osment, and Sarah Werner. And we respond to public queries related to printing, from identifying mysterious background machines in film noir, true story, to advising on sources for establishing the first use of a technology. And in the wake of George Floyd's death and anti-racism protests, we created and posted resources for learning about Black and Indigenous printing, printers, and bibliographies. We're committed to our own education about and to taking action against and holding ourselves accountable for racism. The American Printing History Association welcomes, supports, and preserves all printing histories. So thank you for coming to the WSGU's 2020 Joint Conference of the American Printing History Association and the Hamilton Wood Type and Printing Museum. We look forward to learning and sharing with you during our virtual time together. We're stronger together, and we're better together. In 2020, community matters more than ever. We hope you enjoy the keepsake designed by Amelia Fontanelle and printed by Harold Kyle of Boxcar Press. We look forward to getting to know you better during the conference, and we hope to see you in the future. Thank you.